Okay then. Well, folks, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I think it's a fantastic event. I've been here right from the start and listening to everybody, and it's awesome. It's not a surprise to me personally because I've grown up in Rossendale, and we've kind of used to seeing so much activism and enthusiasm from our community. So it's absolutely no surprise whatsoever. And you know what? You feel so proud of being a Rossendalian, part of this community. And really that's what I think fuels and motivates all of us in what we do in our working life, in our volunteering capacity and so forth. It's certainly the motivation behind what I do as a GP in Rossendale, and certainly my involvement in primary care networks. So anyway, I'd like to share a dream. I'd like to share something with you here. And so I'd like to take you all back to the future. For those of you, people like Ken, people like James, people like Phil, it's a series of films that were from the 80s. So you must watch it. You're all too young probably to remember these films, but you must watch these films. Absolutely brilliant. Michael J. Fox, and yeah, this is kind of defines my childhood really. So let's take you to the future. If I can work this. Yeah, so folks, we're in 2040. So time, COVID is well behind us. Everything's sorted out, and we find ourselves in 2040. Rossendale has continued a fantastic transformation on many levels. As you can see, the developments in Haslingden, in Baker, in Rossendale, the villages, the leisure facilities, and so many other commercial areas, they've all been completed, and it looks lovely. It's a wonderful place to live in. So much so, so much so that the Sunday Telegraph has published the best places to live in the UK. And it's I've highlighted this. Rossendale finds itself in position number 1. So what makes Rossendale such an amazing place to live in? What has been the transformation? What has been the reasons, and why? Now, Sunday Telegraph use an index of 9 areas that they look into, and I'll share those with you. Number 1, life expectancy. In Rossendale, people are now living almost 2 years more than the UK average. So they have a better life expectancy than most of the UK, compared to in 2020, where they were living on average 8 months less than the rest of the UK. If you look at, from a cardiovascular point of view, how healthy people's hearts are, strokes and so forth, there's been a massive reduction in deaths from heart-related problems, stroke-related problems, and so forth. 30% reduction. Happiness index, number 3. Happiness index. Now, this is something, a holistic measurement of how happy people are. So it looks at, how many people are depressed, using antidepressants, use of services through Lancashire Care, mental health services, use of voluntary services, and so forth. And it finds that, on average, in Rossendale, people are, excuse me, 20% happier. So you're saying from a log index, people are 20% happier in Rossendale as compared to the rest of England. Number 4, active locality. People had the foresight, people got together, they looked at their leisure facilities, they looked at the organizations, and they worked together. The leisure facility, the PCNs, the council, the voluntary sector, everybody came together and said, right, how do we make our people more active? So the adrenaline gateway was improved. The facilities at the Mall Pits and Haslingden were improved. The smaller community facilities were looked at, and lots of facilities were installed so that young people could be active. Schools could use these facilities more. As a result of which, your average person in Rossendale is now 30% more active than anyone else in England. There was a fantastic initiative taken by the Borough Council with local businesses and looking at dietary and lifestyle issues. So how can we make our community consume more healthily? How can they understand food better, calories and so forth? And the result has been now that in Rossendale, people on average 20% less likely to eat unhealthy foods. So you measure that by the type of food they buy in the supermarkets, the use of fast foods and so forth. And overall, you can get an idea of people's lifestyle with regards to how they eat. Schools got heavily involved in this work in educating young people from a very early age in primary schools, in secondary schools, in terms of dietary habits. And of course, over 20 years, these young people have now become parents. They have their own children and families. And so that's kind of filtered down throughout the family. And so the culture of eating and living has completely changed. Clean Air Index. So that measures how clean air is within Rossendale. So again, this is an initiative that was taken in partnership between the council, between the primary care networks, in looking at respiratory conditions, how to improve things. As a result of that, they looked at cycle lanes, they looked at the tunnel projects, they looked at the walking projects. So again, it results in people now using less diesel and petrol vehicles. They're walking more, they're cycling more, they're using the facilities a lot more, they're using public transport a lot more because, again, one of the initiatives Borough Council took was to make public transport free throughout Rossendale. So as a result of that, people use public transport and less personal transport. And air in Rossendale is 10% cleaner now than it was 10 years ago. Number 7, access score. So again, we find that parts of our population cannot enter buildings, be that the public services buildings, be that shops, be that commercial units, be that schools and so forth. And so there was a massive initiative about how do we make our houses more accessible, our commercial facilities more accessible, our leisure facilities more accessible, pavements, roads and so forth. And as a result of that, our people in Rossendale, regardless of disabilities, whether physical, mental, anything, they can access facilities so much easily as compared to other areas in England. Health literacy. In 2020, there was colleagues like Dr. Emma Gladwinfield who advocated that doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals become integral to education and involved in primary and secondary care education as mandated as core part of their day work, so that they're not just reactive with regards to people's health, they're involved in education, in preventative health and so forth, so that young people are well informed about health and how to manage things. So they're well empowered in terms of managing things and not needing to access healthcare at a later stage. They can self-manage conditions and understand things themselves. And number 9, best retirement environment. Not to forget a key component, a key population within our communities, which is our senior community, who feel that Rossendale is the most amazing retirement environment. So our senior citizens within Rossendale, they've got excellent entertainment facilities, they've got excellent access to leisure, recreation, and so forth. And as a result of that, we have a fantastic problem in Rossendale where lots of people are wanting to move into Rossendale now, not least our senior community. So you see, Rossendale now is an amazing place to live. PCNs cannot take all the credit, but it was a wonderful initiative in 2016 taken by the Primary Care Homes organisation within UK, and that was part of the Department of Health's initiative to involve communities in managing healthcare within communities. That then took on became the Primary Care Network Initiative, which started in 2018, matured in 2020, 2021, where clinicians, primary care within Rossendale, the Borough Council, the voluntary sector, everybody came together under the banner of Primary Care Network Community. And right from the outset, there was a key and fundamental decision taken by the community, whereby it was led by community as opposed to local clinicians. As a result of which the local leisure trust chair took control of the PCN community. And through that, really, there was a huge amount of discussion, engagement, collaboration, looking at ideas, looking at population needs. It harnessed the energy within the community to create huge changes that weren't solely responsible for all the changes that we've discussed so far, but it is where we find ourselves. It was brilliant in what it was and is, and Rossendale, as a result, reaps dividends, and it is what it is today in 2040, the best place to live in the UK. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my presentation, and I'm up for questions. In the words of the doc from Back to the Future, it's your kids, Marty. Something's got to be done about your kids. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's our future we're talking about here.